Dave Miller was having a perfectly normal Tuesday, or whatever passed for Tuesday on Outpost Sigma 12, the most forgettable human space station in the Orion Arm. He was halfway through unclogging waste recycling tube 37B when the station's alert system activated. Attention all personnel. Unidentified vessels approaching. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Dave sighed, setting down his molecular separation tool. Always during maintenance hours, he muttered, wiping his hands on his already stained jumpsuit. Never during Peter's shift. The station shuddered as something massive locked onto their docking ring. Dave checked his watch 11:47. 13 minutes until his lunch break. Whatever this was, it had better not interfere with his meticulously microwaved pizza pockets. Commander Ellis's voice crackled over the comms. All non-essential personnel, please remain where you are. Our visitors are coming aboard. Dave was definitely non-essential personnel. His job title literally included the word auxiliary. But the clog in tube 37B wasn't going to fix itself, and if the station got destroyed, he'd never hear the end of it from his supervisor. So he kept working. He was elbow deep in the tube when a shadow fell across him. Dave turned to find himself staring at what could only be described as a 7-foot-tall humanoid lobster in ornate armor. Human. The creature bellowed, its mandibles clicking in what Dave assumed was supposed to be intimidating. You have been graced by the presence of the glorious Zolaxian Empire. Dave blinked slowly. Hey, could you hand me that wrench? The alien's compound eyes seemed to bulge. What? The wrench. The silver thingy by your foot, claw. Whatever you call that. The alien looked down, momentarily confused, then back at Dave. Do you not comprehend? I am Captain Krill of the Zolaxian Vanguard. We have conquered 17 galaxies. Dave checked his watch again. 11:52. That's nice. Look, I've got 8 minutes until lunch, and if I don't fix this clog, the whole level's gonna smell like last month's protein loaf. So either help me or conquer somewhere else for a bit. Captain Krill's antennae twitched in what might have been disbelief. He turned to his companions, 3 equally imposing lobster warriors, and chittered something in their language. They all stared at Dave, who had returned to working on the tube. You will come with us, Krill finally announced. Dave sighed. Fine, but I'm bringing my lunch. The Zolaxian mothership was impressive, Dave had to admit. Though it would have been more impressive if they hadn't marched him through the same corridor 3 times, clearly trying to disorient him. He'd spent 5 years navigating the identical grey hallways of Sigma 12. This was amateur hour. They finally deposited him in what was obviously supposed to be an intimidation chamber. The room was dimly lit with pulsing red lights, the temperature uncomfortably cold, and there was a single metal chair in the center. Nice setup, Dave commented, pulling his lunch container from his pocket. Mind if I eat? My break technically started 7 minutes ago. His captors exchanged confused looks but retreated without answering. Dave shrugged and popped open his container, releasing the aroma of pizza pockets into the sterile air. He was halfway through his second pocket when the door hissed open again. This time, a slightly different lobster person entered. This one's exoskeleton was darker, with iridescent patterns that probably signified high rank. Unlike the others, she moved with silent precision. I am Commander Vex'ara, she announced, her voice surprisingly soft but carrying an undercurrent that sent small vibrations through the metal floor. Supreme strategist of the Zolaxian Armada and harbinger of the 17 conquests. Dave swallowed his bite. Dave Miller, auxiliary maintenance technician. Level 4, harbinger of unclogged pipes. Vex'ara's head tilted slightly. You make jokes in the face of your extinction? And not jokes, just job titles. And it's Tuesday, so extinction would actually get me out of filing my weekly report. Silver linings, you know. The commander circled him slowly. Our intelligence indicated humans would be resistant, but not like this. You display no fear. Dave shrugged. I've worked customer service. This is nothing. This is nothing. We have weapons that could turn your bones to liquid while keeping your nervous system intact to experience every moment. Sounds more efficient than the coffee in our break room. Dave took another bite. That stuff takes hours to liquefy anything. Vex'ara slammed a clawed appendage down on the table beside him, denting the metal. Why don't you fear us, human? Dave looked up, meeting her compound eyes directly for the first time. Because I've seen scarier things before breakfast most days. His voice had lost its casual tone, replaced with something that made even Vex'ara take a small step back. Explain, she demanded, but with slightly less force than before. Dave sighed, wrapping up the remains of his lunch. Look, you want the shorthand version of why humans aren't great conquest material. Let me tell you about my species. Let's start with the basics, Dave said, leaning back in the uncomfortable metal chair. Humans evolved on a planet that was actively trying to kill us. We've got weather systems that can flatten cities, microorganisms that rewrite our cells for fun, and wildlife that considers you as crunchy snacks with soft centers. Vex'ara had summoned a floating device that was presumably recording. Many species evolve in harsh conditions. Sure, but we didn't just survive, we got weird about it. We started keeping the animals that could kill us as pets. We eat plants that are technically poison but not quite enough to kill us because we enjoy the flavor. We jump out of perfectly functional flying machines for entertainment. A smaller Zolaxian entered, providing Vex'ara with a glowing tablet. She studied it, her antennae twitching. Our database shows humans require regular periods of unconsciousness to function, she noted. Yeah, we call it sleep. And get this, every night our brains paralyze our bodies and hallucinate vividly for hours. Sometimes those hallucinations are so terrifying we shock ourselves awake. But we consider this normal. We literally lose consciousness for a third of our lives and we're fine with it. The recording Zolaxian made a sound suspiciously like a gag. That can't be evolutionarily advantageous, Vex'ara argued. It super isn't. But we just work around it. Like we know we're vulnerable while unconscious, so we built entire civilizations with complex social contracts, partly so we can all agree not to murder each other in our sleep. Dave warmed to his subject, gesturing enthusiastically. Then there's medicine. We discovered that some fungi can kill bacteria, so we just started putting it in our bodies. When our organs fail, we take organs from dead people and put those inside us instead. If our heart stops, our first instinct is to punch the person repeatedly in the chest until it starts again. Vex'ara's mandibles clicked rapidly. These sound like primitive solutions. Oh, they are. But they work. Humans are basically held together with duct tape and optimism. Our healing process is basically controlled inflammation. We just swell up and leak fluids until we're better. By now, 3 more Zolaxians had entered the room, apparently drawn by Dave's increasingly animated explanation of humanity. What about your warfare? One of them asked. Our records show you haven't achieved unified planetary governance. Dave laughed. That's because we can't stop fighting each other long enough to organize it. We spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other in increasingly creative ways. We invented nuclear weapons that could destroy our entire planet, pointed thousands of them at each other. We called it mutually assured destruction, and then just lived with that for decades. We called it peacekeeping. The Zolaxians exchanged looks that Dave interpreted as concern. And here's the kicker, Dave continued. We're not even united biologically. Each human hosts entire ecosystems of microorganisms that outnumber our own cells. We're basically walking colonies that have somehow convinced ourselves we're individuals. Vex'ara had stopped pacing and was now standing perfectly still. And yet you achieved space travel. Because we're stubborn. The void of space is literally the most hostile environment imaginable, so naturally we decided we needed to go there. We strap ourselves to controlled explosions to break out of our planet's gravity well, because we're curious about what's out there. Dave pointed at the nearest Zolaxian. You know what the first thing we did when we reached our moon? We hit a golf ball. Just whacked it into the void for fun. This behavior seems, Vex'ara seemed to search for the right word, irrational. Oh, completely. But that's humanity for you. We're basically chaos with thumbs. I could explain more, Dave said, standing up and stretching, but it might be easier to show you. How about a tour of our station? Seeing is believing and all that. Vex'ara considered this for a moment, then nodded curtly. An observation of humans in their habitat would provide valuable intelligence. Dave didn't mention that he mostly wanted to get back to work before his supervisor wrote him up for an extended lunch break. The small group of Zolaxians followed him through their ship and back to Sigma 12, their previously intimidating demeanor now tinged with obvious curiosity. As they re-entered the station, Dave waved casually to the security team, who were being held at bay by more Zolaxian warriors. "It's cool, guys. Just giving them the grand tour." Officer Ramirez blinked in confusion. "Miller, these aliens have taken over the command deck." "Yeah, but they're not interfering with maintenance schedules, so we're good." Dave turned to Vex'ara. "First stop, the mess hall. It's almost shift change." The mess hall was filled with station personnel going about their business as if a hostile alien takeover wasn't in progress. The Zolaxians watched in fascinated horror as humans engaged in their lunchtime rituals. "What is that human consuming?" asked one of the warriors, pointing to Dr. Franklin, who was downing her 6th cup of coffee. "The coffee. It's a mild neurotoxin that we drink to make our brains work faster." "You intentionally poison yourselves for productivity?" Vex'ara's voice held a new note, something between respect and terror. "Basically." "Oh, and that guy." Dave pointed to Engineer Wong, who was gleefully showing his tablemates something on his tablet. "He's watching extreme sports compilations. That's where humans record themselves nearly dying while performing unnecessary physical feats, then share the videos so other humans can enjoy them." The group moved on to the recreation area, where Lieutenant Patel was in the middle of her boxing practice, pummeling a hanging bag with precisely controlled violence. "This is how we relax," Dave explained. "Simulated combat. Helps us unwind." One of the smaller Zolaxians leaned toward Vex'ara, a commander. The database underestimated their aggression parameters significantly. In the hydroponics lab, Dave introduced them to Dr. Ivanov, who barely looked up from his work. "Pavel here is trying to create plants that can grow in radiation-soaked environments," Dave explained. "You know, for fun." Dr. Ivanov finally noticed the 7-foot lobster aliens and merely raised an eyebrow. "New interns?" "Nah, invading force. They conquered 17 galaxies." "Only 17? Well, everyone has to start somewhere." Ivanov turned back to his plants. "Don't touch the blue ones. They secrete a compound that makes your skin temporarily transparent." As they left, one of the Zolaxians whispered, "They experiment with making their own bodies transparent, recreationally." Vex'ara's mandibles were clicking almost constantly now. The casualness with which they approach biological manipulation is concerning. Their final stop was the engine room, where Chief Engineer Martinez was halfway inside an access panel, colorful language echoing off the metal walls. "Is that human inside the power core?" gasped a warrior. "Yep," Dave confirmed. "We take malfunctioning machinery very personally. She's probably threatening it." Martinez extracted herself from the panel. Face smudged with grease, she spotted Dave and his entourage. "Miller, perfect timing. I need someone skinny to squeeze into the calibration chamber." "Can't. Alien abduction." "Rain check?" Martinez finally processed the presence of the Zolaxians. First contact, neat. Can any of you fit into a 2-foot-wide maintenance shaft?" Before any Zolaxian could respond to Martinez's request, the station's alert system blared to life. "Warning, atmospheric regulation failing in Sector 7. Oxygen levels dropping. All personnel evacuate immediately." Dave's casual demeanor instantly shifted. "That's the residential sector. There are families there." The transformation was subtle but unmistakable. The slouching maintenance worker stood straighter, his eyes sharper. "Martinez, can you stabilize from here?" "Negative. The override relay is fried. Someone needs to manually reset the system from inside Sector 7. "But there's no air," protested one of the Zolaxians. Dave was already grabbing an emergency kit from the wall. There's enough for about 4 minutes. Should be plenty of time. For what? Vex'ara demanded. To get in, fix the system, and get out before brain damage sets in, Dave replied matter-of-factly, as if explaining a simple recipe. Martinez was already assisting Dave with an oxygen mask. Remember, the relay panel is behind the secondary processor. I know. I unclogged the cooling system last month. Dave checked his watch, an actual habit, not a performance this time. If I'm not back in 5 minutes, tell Peters he still owes me 20 credits from poker night. Before anyone could object, Dave was sprinting down the corridor toward the danger zone. The Zolaxians stood frozen for a moment before Vex'ara snapped into action. Follow him, she ordered, but Martinez blocked their path. More bodies means less air for him to work with, she said firmly. Let him do his job. For the next 4 minutes and 37 seconds, they watched on the security feed as Dave, with methodical efficiency, made his way through the oxygen-depleted sector. His movements became visibly slower as he approached the control panel, but he never hesitated. With less than a minute of consciousness remaining, he reset the system and dragged himself toward the exit. He collapsed just as the doors opened, another human rushing in to pull him to safety. When Dave regained consciousness in the medical bay 20 minutes later, Vex'ara was waiting. You nearly died, she stated flatly. Dave shrugged, then winced at the pain the movement caused. Wouldn't be Tuesday without a near-death experience. Hey, why? The question contained multitudes. Dave looked at her for a long moment, because that's what humans do. We look at certain death, and we say not today. But you showed no fear. Before, during, or after. That's the thing your species doesn't understand about humans, Dave said quietly. We're always afraid. We've just learned to use fear as fuel, rather than letting it paralyze us. We're terrified of death, so we joke about it. We're scared of the unknown, so we run toward it. We're afraid of our own mortality, so we do stupid, risky things to feel alive. Dave sat up slowly. You asked why I don't fear you. It's not because I'm brave. It's because humans like me live with fear as a constant companion. What's one more monster when your own planet, your own body, your own mind are already trying to kill you every day? Vex'ara was silent for a long moment. In 17 conquered galaxies, we have never encountered a species like yours. Yeah, Dave nodded. We get that a lot. The Zolaxian retreat began less than an hour later. They called it a strategic redeployment, but everyone knew what it really was. The massive ships that had surrounded Sigma 12 disengaged one by one, their engines flaring bright against the backdrop of stars. Commander Ellis found Dave back at Waste Recycling Tube 37B, finally finishing the job he'd started before the whole alien invasion thing. Miller, Ellis said, I don't know how you did it, but apparently you single-handedly convinced an advanced alien civilization to leave us alone. Dave didn't look up from his work. Just gave them a history lesson, sir. Well, before they left, they transmitted a message to Earth declaring the entire Sol system strategically insignificant and not worth the resource expenditure. We're basically being written off as not worth conquering. Good call on their part, Dave grunted as he finally dislodged the clog, a tangled mass of hair and some unidentifiable protein-based sludge. Would have been a nightmare for their PR department. Ellis shook his head in disbelief. You should probably know that before Commander Vex'ara departed, she filed what they call a civilization assessment in their database. I was given a copy as a diplomatic courtesy. This finally got Dave's attention. Yeah, what's it say? Ellis cleared his throat and read from his tablet, species human, threat classification, extreme. Recommended approach, do not engage. Notes. These beings have evolved in conditions that would eradicate most sentient life. They have adapted by becoming fundamentally unpredictable and seemingly immune to normal psychological deterrence. They do not respond appropriately to threats and appear to become more dangerous when cornered. And concerning, they have normalized their own terrifying biology and psychology to the point of casual acceptance. Advise observation from maximum safe distance only. Dave chuckled. Flattering. There's more, Ellis continued. Personal addendum from Commander Vex'ara. The human known as Dave Miller explained why they do not fear us. His answer still disturbs me. He said, "We're not brave, we're just used to it. May the 17 galaxies never encounter their like in larger numbers." As Ellis walked away, Dave finished packing up his tools. His shift was nearly over, and he had plans to try the new extreme hot synthetic chili in the mess hall, a spice level that had already sent 2 crew members to medical. Just another Tuesday on Outpost Sigma 12. Humans, he muttered to himself with a small smile. We're basically chaos with thumbs.